In this tutorial, I will be going over lists, a few things that you can do with lists, how to append a list, how to delete things from a list, how to change items in a list. I will also go over how you can split a string into characters and how you can find out the length of a list and the length of a string. Lists. This is a list. You can call it anything that you like, but we usually use the standard way of camel casing. So you start off with a little letter, and if it's got another word in there, you capitalize that. You use brackets, and these are square brackets. You can add strings in there. If your string, this is in any circumstance when you're using a string, if you use a string with an apostrophe in it, you'll use double quotes instead of single quotes. The list can have a number in, and it can also have variables, and it can be a mixture. So it can have all numbers, all variables, or all strings, or a mixture. So if I print this, it prints out what's in the list. If I change the variable to 50, you'll see it just prints out whatever is contained in the variable. A list is indexed. So this would be 0, this would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3, this would be 4, this would be 5. And I can show you that now. So if I change this to 0, it's going to print out Tony. Watch this. Prints out Tony. If I wanted to print out Mishka, then I would put 2 in there because this is 0, 1, 2. And it prints out Mishka. I can also print out the rest of the list by just doing adding the colon in there. That prints out the rest of the list. And if I do 4, it will print everything from Mishka, but it will stop at 3. So it doesn't print out 4. Watch. Okay, so it goes from Mishka, which is 2, it prints out the next one, which is 3, and it gets to 4 and stops. Doesn't print anything out. So let's take this out now. We can delete an element from there. So let's delete. Let's delete 1. So now when it prints out, you'll see that it's missed out what was in 1, which was Shen's. We can do this again. Let's delete 4. Now it prints the list, but this time it's missed out what was in 4. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it hasn't printed out the 100. We can do append. So if I do my list, and then we use dot notation, append, and now we're going to put in there, let's put Fred in. Fred. Okay, so now this prints out the list, but it's added Fred to the end here. The next thing is that you can assign something new. So if you do my list, and then we say we want to replace Shen there with Candy. Now you can see that in that element which did have Shen, it now prints Candy. There's an easy way to find out what's at the end of a list. You can use -1. So if I add this in -1, it prints out what's at the end of the list. If I change that to Fred or Jane, let's change it to Jane, and then run it again, you can see it prints out what's at the end of the list. Let's add two elements together. So I take element 1. Now, if I add that to my list, and we pick an index 0, it now concatenates. This is concatenation. This is concatenating these two elements together. Okay, so you can do that. We could change that to 4, and it doesn't work. Now, why doesn't it work? Let's have a look. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't work because this is a number and it's not a string. So it will concatenate the two strings together, but it will not concatenate the a number and a string together. So if I change that to 5, now we get 150 because it's asking it to add 100 to whatever is in this variable, which is 50, which is 150. You can also split an item in a list. So if I take list and I want to split whatever's in here, I put 0 in. And now it splits what's in that index, whatever's contained in that index. That string is now listed out as a string of characters, or a list of characters. What happens if I change this to 4? It doesn't like that. It doesn't like it if you change it to 4. If I change it to 5, so this is another number. Again, it doesn't like that. If I change this to what I have last time, Fred, and now I do it, it will do it. It will separate it out into its characters because it's a string. So you can do that with strings, but you can't do that with numbers. So there are other options that you can do here as well. If I change this back to a number, and I put in here 4, and I multiply it by my list 5, it doesn't work because we've got list at the front here, that's why. Now it does. Okay, so you could divide it as well. Let's do divide. And let's say you want to find the length of a list. You would use this keyword here. Okay, so ln, and you're going to use the parentheses. Now it prints how many items are in the list. Okay, so if I take these two out, now there's only 4 items in the list, so it prints the length of that list. Now let's change this round a little bit. Let's get rid of these and this, and we're going to change this to there. It's no longer a list, it's just a list of one thing. So it's just a variable now. Now if I do it, it gives me a list of what's in this variable here. So this is just a variable. I can change that to just my variable just to make it clearer. This is just an ordinary variable, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there. If I put a space in there, it now prints out 6. So you can find out the length of a string as well. So what happens if I make it, if it's a number, it doesn't like it. If I make that number a string, it prints out how many are in there. So it will count the white spaces. These are called white spaces. So I put 2 extra ones in there, it will count them. So that's what you can do with length. Now length can be quite useful, so remember length. So that's lists. You can put things in a list, you can put strings in a list, you can put numbers in a list, you can put variables in a list. When you're assigning a list, you use the square brackets. Indexing starts at 0 with lists. We've been over deleting items from a list, appending items to a list using dot notation, and changing what is at a specific index in a list. We've also been over lists and splitting an item into a list of characters, and we've been over the length, how to find the length of a list as well.